Welcome in, Outkick the Show, Monday edition. Want you to know that I'm playing a little bit hurt here. It hasn't happened in a long time, but this morning when I was in the shower, I got shampoo in both my eyes simultaneously, and I really did think I was going to die. I've been telling my kids to suck it up. It's not that bad. Shampoo in the eyes doesn't hurt. I got a confession for you. I've just been totally lying to them. It's been so long since I got shampoo in my eyes, I forgot how bad it hurts. That is like the worst feeling on the planet. You're standing there in the shower in a good mood, nice warm water, thinking about your day. Next thing you know, I don't know how it happened, but I got double shampoo in the eye, and I thought I was going to die. I'm lucky to still be alive. I'm going to be honest. I'm just not sure I'm going to make it through the day, but I just wanted to give full confession in case you're looking at my eyes and you're thinking, that man looks a little bit out of sorts today. That's why. I almost died this morning in the shower. We got a bunch to get to. A lot of NFL stories, a lot of college football stories as well. But we began with what your boy was 100% right about. I told you that the Browns were going to go on the road and they were going to beat the Baltimore Ravens because the Baltimore Ravens are a hype machine that doesn't justify the hype at all. They beat the Miami Dolphins and they beat the Arizona Cardinals. The last I checked, those two teams are combined 0-7-1. They went on the road and they really got run by the Chiefs. And then the Browns came rolling into Baltimore and ran completely all over them. This was not some sort of aberration. This is the Browns being a better team than the Ravens. Now, I know that the Browns have come in for a lot of criticism this season, given all the hype. But this was a beatdown. And now the Browns, after a quarter of the season, are sitting in first place in the AFC North. And all the people who are rooting for Lamar Jackson, because he's a black quarterback, in the media are sitting around saying, oh, wait, maybe we jumped the gun a little bit here. And you guys think I'm crazy. But this is like 99% of the Lamar Jackson hype. If Lamar Jackson were not a black quarterback, nobody would be paying attention to him. He would just be another dude, all right? And I thought this was crazy when you look at what's going on. The undefeated at ESPN right now, their entire season is predicated on how black quarterbacks are doing. They are putting out graphics analyzing black quarterbacks every year as part of something that they branded the year of black quarterbacks. Now, personally, I don't know when this legacy of discrimination is going to end against white corners. I don't think we've had a starting white cornerback in the NFL since Jason Sehorn. This is like 15 or 16 years of blatant racism, which has just been allowed to fester and hasn't been addressed. And I don't know why all the white corners are totally being overlooked. I'd like to give credit to Christian McCaffrey for being the first white running back to ever be good at running back in my life. But I'm just so glad that he has shattered the glass ceiling of racism and actually ended up being able to play the running back position despite his race. Now, this is crazy, okay? For anyone out there that has a functional brain, you can rip the NFL for a lot. The NFL is the most hyper-competitive league in all of sports. And the great thing about the NFL is it's a meritocracy. What your talent is dictates whether or not you play. Obsessing about where someone's from or what their race is or who they sleep with, nobody cares. And in fact, if they did care, okay, this has always been my argument. If a lot of NFL teams were racist, do you know what the advantage would be? If you weren't racist, then you would be able to win more games. Because what it would mean is that players based on their race are being undervalued in a highly competitive field. And so you would be able to take advantage of your non-racism and go out and be able to grab everybody who is not fitting the expected standard of a particular position, and you would win at a higher level. Honestly, this is why I think Bill Belichick started going with white wide receivers. I really do believe this. I think Belichick looked at the overall valuation and gradation of players, and I think he saw at the wide receiver position that there were a lot of undervalued white players because of their race. And so he went out and got them at a reduced cost, and he's been able to benefit with it. Certainly at running back, they always have a white running back somewhere. They find anybody they can to plug in and take advantage of the stereotypes that exist out there in a Moneyball-esque fashion, which is what smart people should do, right? If you can find a competitive advantage, no matter what it is, then take advantage of it. If racism against black quarterbacks existed, then there would be teams that were able to take those quarterbacks that nobody else wanted and win with them with a lower cost. It doesn't actually happen because there is no racism in the NFL, but people like to be obsessed with it because it makes them relevant. Therefore, there you go, the undefeated, which would otherwise be a totally worthless part of ESPN. They can hit the racism bell over and over and over again, and if somebody tries to point out, hey, nobody's reading your website, they'll be like, it's racist of you to point out that nobody is reading your website. Hey, it's racist of you to point out that nobody actually cares about what's going on here. That's the truth, right? If ESPN were being run in an intelligent fashion, they wouldn't have a part of their website dedicated to black issues, right? They wouldn't have a part of their website dedicated to women's issues. They would just cover sports. And black people and white people and Asian people and Hispanic people and men and women will all read the same articles. I think that's what happens all the time. So this is a failure, I think, of ESPN's brand and also of the hypersectionality associated with identity politics in our modern era. So that's the way that I would run a company. I think sports should unite everybody, not slice and dice them up into a bunch of different parts. But the Browns go on the road, get the win, respond to all the criticism against them being levied against Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham, Freddie Kitchens. Boom. Big win for the Browns. I called it. I told you they'd win outright as 7-point underdogs. That's one that I definitely got right. Daniel Jones may never lose another football game. I don't want to overreact. I don't want to praise somebody too early. But Daniel Jones may never lose an NFL football game as a starting quarterback in this league. Because all of the evidence suggests at 2-0 that this man is never going to ever lose a football game. Danny Dimes has stepped in and he is delivering. And he delivered on Sunday against the Redskins, and I absolutely loved every minute of it. If you regularly read or watch or listen to me, you know that I particularly enjoy when the conventional wisdom gets twisted on its head. When everybody out there expects for one thing to happen, all of the mob rushes towards one opinion. I enjoy when the common sense ends up looking like a bunch of idiocy when the mob is exposed. And I'm not sure in the world of sports that we have seen anyone ever expose the ridiculousness of draft grades faster than what Daniel Jones has done as the number 6 overall pick. And by the way, unless it could have been any better, he actually played against Dwayne Haskins. Do you remember the Giants fans who were like, oh, we should have taken Josh Allen and then we could have gotten Dwayne Haskins at 16? How'd that work out for you? Dwayne Haskins comes in, immediately throws 3 interceptions, may not even be able to start in week 5. It seems to me that there's a pretty big early gap between Daniel Jones's ability to play and Dwayne Haskins' ability to play. So everybody out there who's saying, oh, they should have traded back and they could have gotten Dwayne Haskins. He's basically the exact same player. Maybe, just maybe, Dave Gettleman and the New York Giants knew what they were doing. This is something to keep in mind. All right, I love this. All right, there are 13 teams right now in the NFL that are all 2-2. No league does a better job in all of pro sports than selling hope. Right now, 75% of all NFL teams are 2-2 or better. That means a quarter of the season is gone, and you believe, I believe, anyone out there who wants to believe can believe that their team's going to make the playoffs and make a run once they actually get into the postseason. That is a huge part of the overall landscape of the NFL. It's why there are so many good seasons in the NFL, because you can go from worst in your division to first in your division. It happens almost every single year. And right now, no better division is perfect representation of that than the AFC South, where everybody is 2-2. The Jags are 2-2 with Gardner Minshew. The Titans are 2-2. The Colts are 2-2. And the Texans are 2-2. It's the first time all 4 teams in a division have ever been 2-2 after 4 weeks in a season since the Super Bowl era began. That's literally never happened before in the history of the NFL. Pretty wild stat that's out there. And I've got an even wilder stat for you. Do you know who are the top 5 quarterbacks from a passer rating perspective so far in the NFL this year? This is going to blow your mind, all right? Are you ready for the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL so far? There's going to be a lot of shock out there, a lot of awe, and I think a lot of you are not going to believe it. top 5 NFL passer ratings. Not a surprise who number 1 is. Patrick Mahomes. Number 2, Russell Wilson. Number 3, Dak Prescott. Number 4, Lamar Jackson. And number 5, who have started 4 games, Marcus Mariota. All right? That's pretty wild when you look at the first 5 highly ranked quarterbacks through the first 4 games of the season. Now, there's still some statistical noise here, but it is pretty interesting. You know, obviously with only 4 games, every game factors in at a high level, but it's definitely worth paying attention to see how this shakes out as they go forward. All right? Now, should Cowboy fans be nervous about their performance against the Saints on the road on Sunday, last night? I don't really think so. I don't really think Cowboy fans should be that nervous, although I will point this out. Every game so far this season, Dak Prescott has gotten worse. What I would be nervous about if I'm a Cowboy fan is that trend line. Every game so far this season, the Dallas Cowboys have gotten worse. And coming into the game, the only team they had played that actually won a game was the Giants, and they played against Eli as opposed to against Daniel Jones, who, as I told you before, may never lose an NFL game as a starter. So this is intriguing to follow, is the overall trajectory of Dak Prescott. Now, 3-1, I think every fan in America who's a fan of an NFL team, every 4 weeks, if you could take 3-1, maybe unless you're the Patriots or the Chiefs, you sign up for it. But I do think that's worth following. Speaking of the Patriots and the Chiefs, do we feel a little bit less confident about how strong they are coming off wins over the Bills and the Lions that could have been easily losses? Yeah, I do. I do feel like I might have been incorrect in there being a substantial distance between the Patriots, the Chiefs, and everybody else in the AFC. Because I watched both of these games, and the Patriots just looked very mediocre on the offensive side of the ball. Now, their defense is next level. They've given up 1 touchdown so far through 4 games. But if they don't block a punt and get a usual Patriots score like that, even with a bad performance by Josh Allen and him getting knocked out of the game, I don't know that they win this game. And Matt Barkley had the ball with a chance to drive back at the end and win the game for them. There's only one team Matt Barkley's going to beat, and that's going to be the Titans if he's starting this week, because the Titans can lose to anybody and they break your heart. But I'm not necessarily buying into the idea that there's a huge gap between those 2 teams and everybody else. The Patriots usually start off slow in September, but Brady didn't look very good. That offense doesn't look very good. We'll see whether they can start to work things out, the kinks there, but right now they don't look that good. And on the Chiefs side, their defense is bad. That's why I said they should trade for Jalen Ramsey. I don't know that they have the defense yet to be able to win a Super Bowl. Maybe they can just outscore people. I don't know necessarily if it's going to be able to continue because, again, I believe the Patriots and the Chiefs are still the best teams, but I'm not sure they're as much head and shoulders above everybody else as I anticipated that they were. All right, let's go to my top 10 in college football. I don't know if you guys are like me, but I find myself watching Ohio State play this year with a lot less dismay and discord and disgust that with Ryan Day on the sideline than I had when Urban Meyer was on the sideline. I find Ohio State to be infinitely less hateable. They are infinitely less hateable without Urban Meyer than they are or were with Urban Meyer. All right? So when I break this down and look at Ohio State, I actually think the Buckeyes are one of the most underrated teams in college football, and I believe that Clemson is the most overrated team in college football so far. Now, let me explain why. Clemson played North Carolina even and was fortunate to get out of Chapel Hill with a win. North Carolina went for 2 very end of the game after they tied it, but this wasn't an aberrant result. It's not like you looked at the box score and you said, oh, Clemson outgained them by 200 yards, but they had a blocked punt or they had 3 interceptions or they had a bunch of turnovers. This is a team that was playing even with a very average, very, very average North Carolina team. And coming into the season, I thought Clemson had a mulligan and they could lose a game and they would still deserve to make the college football playoff. I don't believe that anymore. I think if Clemson loses to anybody on their schedule, given how bad the ACC is, they don't deserve to play for the college football playoff. Not when you look at how strong the SEC is, not when you look at how strong the Big Ten is. Both of these conferences have 5 undefeated teams still left. Not when you look at how well Oklahoma has been playing. There just isn't, in my mind, a justification for Clemson, given how bad the ACC is, to be in the college football playoff with a loss. And also, Clemson shouldn't be anywhere near the top 5 right now. We can argue about where they should be in the top 10 realm because they are 5-0. But if you just watch Clemson play, they remind me a lot right now of 2014 Florida State. Remember 2014 Florida State? They went out and won the championship as an undefeated team in 2013 with Jimbo Fisher and Jameis Winston. The next year, they returned a lot of the same talent, and they played close games throughout the season. They could have lost a ton of those close games. Instead, they found ways to go on and win. Then they got into the playoff, and they got roasted by the Oregon Ducks. Absolutely dismantled and destroyed. I think there's a good analogy here with Clemson and Florida State 2014. Why? Clemson wins the national championship undefeated. They got a big, strong pocket passer quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, very similar to what Jameis Winston did. And Trevor Lawrence hasn't been sharp this year. He's been very average, especially given expectations. And as a result of that average play, the overall offense hasn't been very good, and they've played a lot more close games than you ordinarily would expect for them to be playing. Now, granted, Trevor Lawrence didn't have a rape investigation. He hasn't had any off-the-field related shenanigans, nothing like Jameis there. But I do believe in terms of the overall performance, you're looking at a very similar setup to what you got back then that is eerily similar to what happened with Florida State in 2014. All right, couple of things. I want to give you my top 10. Here's my top 10. And the reason why I do my top 10 this way is I do it based on what we expect, what we have actually seen on the field this year, as opposed to what we expected to see. Okay? What we have actually seen as opposed to what we expected to see. And so my national top 10. Number 10, Penn State. What a beating Penn State put on Maryland. They were going to black out the stadium. They canceled classes on that Friday, rolled in, and it was a utter unbelievable beatdown. I got Penn State at number 10. Number 9, Notre Dame. Nice win by Notre Dame over Virginia. Raises the question, who's the second best team in the ACC? Is it Wake Forest? Is it Duke? Are they even a top 50 team relative to the overall nation? The ACC is garbage, all right? Absolute garbage. Number 8, I've got Wisconsin. In the 8 spot, I have got Wisconsin. The Badgers were not very good against Northwestern. I dropped them back a little bit after their big win over Michigan. We're still not sure that Michigan's any good at all. In the 7 spot, I have got the Florida Gators. Still not sure whether Florida's any good. I love Auburn to get the win this week on the road in the Swamp against the Gators. I also really like the under there. Number 6 spot, I got the Oklahoma Sooners. Number 5 spot, I got Alabama. Number 4, Ohio State. Number 3, LSU. Number 2, Georgia. And the best team in college football, in my opinion, right now, based on resume entirely, is Auburn. I understand people get triggered when I say it, but if you look at the win over Oregon, road neutral, you look at the win over Texas A&M, and you look at the trajectory of the Auburn Tigers, I believe that Auburn is the best team in college football right now, based entirely on the resume on the field. I have got Alabama, which is triggering Alabama fans, including my son, 5. I'm not a believer. Tua is one of the best college quarterbacks we've ever seen. Alabama might have the best cadre of wide receivers we've ever seen. This defense is awful. They gave up 270 yards, I believe it was, rushing to Ole Miss. They gave up the most yards that South Carolina has had, and they gave up the most yards that Ole Miss has had against anybody. 476 they gave up to Ole Miss. 279 on the ground. They gave up 459 yards to South Carolina. This is not the Alabama defense that you have grown used to. Now, maybe the Tide are going to be able to outscore people, but I like Auburn's defense a lot more than I like Alabama's defense. So far, I like Ohio State's defense a lot better than I like Alabama's defense. Those are 2 teams that I think if they lined up with Alabama would be able to give them a little bit of a run. We'll see what exactly ends up happening. SEC power rankings. No, and stop. Somebody says it was all garbage time yards. No, it was not. Stop. Alabama's defenses used to never give up garbage time yards or garbage time defenses, garbage time touchdowns. Do you know why? Because they were so good. Because the depth was so fantastic. Trust me, Alabama used to be a covering machine. They have burned me twice now. They burned me against South Carolina, giving up a full length of the drive touchdown, and they burned me against Ole Miss, giving up a full length of the field touchdown at the end. Alabama used to not do that because the program was so competitive that the defense that got in as backups were terrified of making mistakes because they knew they wouldn't get to play. There was so much unbelievable depth. I believe that Auburn looks a lot like 2010 Auburn and a lot like 2013 Auburn. You don't judge them based on where they are exactly right now. You judge them based on how they're getting better. Auburn this past weekend, Saturday, against Mississippi State, their offense was off the charts. If you remember that year that they won with Cam Newton, they started off slow and progressively got better. The same thing happened with Nick Marshall in 2013. Remember, they got run in September by LSU, lost by 21, and then they ended up by the end of the year making an incredible run. Now, I don't necessarily know that Auburn is going to be able to get it done, but it's certainly worth paying attention to and thinking not about where they are right now, but where they're going to be at the end of the year. I think their ceiling on offense with Bo Nix is higher than Alabama's ceiling is with Tua. I think Alabama is closer to being what they already are than Auburn is. Auburn is on and has a higher ceiling than I believe Alabama does. A couple of other things. My Outkick top 14 in the SEC. Everybody wants to know how the SEC is doing. Conference is amazing. Has 5 teams in the top 10 again for a 19th time. No other conference in America has had 5 teams in the top 10 ever before. The SEC has done it 19 times. I got Auburn 1, Georgia 2, LSU 3, Alabama 4, Florida 5, Missouri 6, Texas A&M 7, Mississippi State 8, Ole Miss 9, South Carolina 10, Kentucky 11, 12 Vanderbilt, 13 Arkansas, 14 I've got Tennessee. All right, there's a lot of attention about this name, age, likeness bill that was signed into law out in California by Governor Newsom. Now, I don't think there's going to be an immediate outcome that changes anything in the world of college sports because I think they'll probably have a lawsuit. It'll take years. What I would say in general is this. Individual states should not be setting rules as it pertains to intercollegiate athletics. Because what it sets up is every individual state legislature setting out their own rules, and then you have a patchwork of rules which don't allow any sort of commonality or cohesion, no even playing field on the overall rules that exist. It would be like if a team decided to go out, let's say the state of Alabama, because we could certainly see it happening. Every Alabama and Auburn player gets $100,000 if they sign to play football. That'd probably be politically popular in that state. It wouldn't be fair for Alabama and Auburn to sign a $100,000 per player payment and other states not be able to do that because they couldn't afford it or they didn't have the overall interest. So here is what I would say in general. The NCAA needs to back up on a lot of this stuff. You shouldn't be ineligible if you sell your autograph. You shouldn't be ineligible if you sell your jersey like Todd Gurley did. You shouldn't be ineligible if you sell your autograph like it appears Johnny Manziel did back in the day, okay? You should have the right to sell your apparel, to sell your personal property, and you should have the right to sell your autograph. I think it's insane, like Johnny Manziel pointing out, that when he was in college at Texas A&M, if he signed the cover of Sports Illustrated for another student, that student could take it and put it on eBay, and they could sell it. But if he did the same thing and tried to sell it, he wasn't eligible to play football for A&M. That's absolutely crazy, all right? That makes no sense at all. What I don't think makes a lot of sense is I don't think individual players should be able to go out and sign endorsement deals with like a local car dealership. I think that's crazy. So I don't think individual players should be able to sign endorsement deals, but I do think they should be able to sign autographs. I do think they should be able to sell their gear if they want to be able to do that, right? I don't know that the NCAA needs to be in the business of policing it. And I don't strongly care one way or the other, But I do think it sets up an incredibly awkward scenario where the starting quarterback has a deal with the local Buddy Garrity in every college town, and he's making hundreds of thousands of dollars under the table, and nobody else is actually going to get anything, right? So if they want to use the local quarterback, then I think the money should all go into a fund where everybody gets to share that money. So if the quarterback doesn't add, then let's say he gets $100,000, you share it with everybody else. But I don't have any problem at all with autographs. I don't have any problem at all with selling jerseys or whatever else needs to go into this. I also think the bigger issue, and there's a lot of focus on paying athletes, college should be a route to the pros. It shouldn't be the route. If you want to be a professional, once you reach the age of majority in this country at 18 years old, you should be able to go pro. You shouldn't have to go play basketball in college. You shouldn't have to go play football in college. That can be a pathway to the pros. But in Major League Baseball, we have tons of kids who go straight into a minor league system at 18. Some of them go to college, but a lot of them decide to take money and go into the pros. And if you decide to go into college, you stay for 3 years, and then you can go into the draft after 3 years. But if you want to go directly to being a pro at 18 years old, you should be able to do it. We let 18-year-olds in this country go sign up for the military and walk around with guns and get shot at. I think we'll be fine with letting 18-year-olds try to make it as a professional athlete, and if they don't, they can go back and do something else. I'm not troubled by that. We don't require Taylor Swift to go sing in the Vanderbilt chorus for 3 years instead of going and releasing an album. If you are good enough to be a professional at 18 years old, you should be able to go pro. I think what people should be focusing on, instead of whether college athletes get paid, is the fact that age restrictions, in my opinion, in pro sports are discriminatory in nature and shouldn't exist. A CBA should not be able to exclude somebody based on their age, in my opinion. I think Maurice Clarett was right. I think Mike Williams was right when they filed the lawsuit and won at the district court level and then lost at the circuit court level. I believe you should be able to decide. Hold on a second. Bad burp. I almost threw up there. Man, I don't know what happened. Got to get a water here. Can you imagine if I just projectile vomited there? First of all, I get shampoo in my eyes. Then I got a bad burp. I almost died. I almost died there right in front of all of you. So, all I have to say is, you should be able to go pro, all right? You should be able to go pro beyond a shadow of a doubt at the age of 18 years old. I would have never heard the end of that if that had happened on Lock It In. I'm lucky to be alive. First shampoo in the eye, now I burp live on television, almost died. Man, I'm playing through it today. I got to go shave now and get ready for television. Got a lot of neck beard going on here, beard getting a little thick here. By the way, I'll be going, I don't know why, speaking of glutton for punishment, assuming that I survive, I am going to go out up to Knoxville this weekend, and I'm going to be in person for the beatdown that Georgia is going to put on Tennessee. So I'll be up in Knoxville this weekend. I love all of you. Kisses. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. My name is Clay Travis. You, my friends, are all outstanding. I love all of you. Share the show if you like it. Watch us on Lock It In a half hour, 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central, 2:30 Mountain, 1:30 Pacific. See you guys. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. See ya. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. Lucky to be alive here.